Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs. I'm going to take a quick look at the December Says Stamp card kit and then we'll jump into making some cards. So let's take a gander. So I did get a crackle paste in my box here. Of course it froze because it's very, very cold in Canada right now. So I'll probably have to stir that up quite a bit, but that was in the kit. We'll just pull the bag out here. And of course it did actually rip a little bit, but that's okay. I'm pretty sure the contents will be fine. Let me just pull everything out. I'm gonna rip the bag. Oh, I think we get everything. Oh, we go. Oh, stuff keeps falling out. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have everything out of the bag. So of course I got my little Says Stamp card here that just tells you all the fun stuff. Look at all the beautiful cards on there. Like, how beautiful are those? So that was in there. And then I have a little bottle here. Let me check what everything actually is, because it always says on the idea sheet. All right, so we have Ranger's Icicle Distress Crackle Paste, which is what this is. Which is funny because I already have one. And then I have a Dries needle tip applicator bottle. So that's what this is. That's pretty cool. And then I also have the Tim Holtz, Rangers. The Ranger trowel palette knife, which I can never have enough of these. So that's cool. And then some Tim Holtz bubbles. I don't know what we're going to do with those in card making, but we'll check it out and see what happens. Of course, my candy, which you can't get these in Canada, so I'm always excited when they send me one of those. A sheet of, I believe these are thin 3D foam squares. These ones are specifically by Dries actually, but they're like the thin guys, so that's really cool. I have 2 envelopes, one in white and one in AUDREY blue, I believe. Are these 2 right here? Perfect. Ooh, I got gold. Oh, you didn't know what color you were gonna get, and I got gold, so that's amazing. Because I don't actually have the gold one. I have the clear one, and I think I have a silver one. And then the pattern paper, which is by Craft Consortium, I believe. Yeah, so this is their pattern paper, and then this is their decoupage sheets, and they go together. So you can create some 3D elements. So we'll take a quick gander at the papers. So one side is like a pattern and the other side, oh, some of them are patterns on both sides. Okay, cool. Oh, like one's light and one's dark. Oh, that's neat. Okay. And then some of them are scenes. So that's really neat. I know this kit is Christmas themed, of course, because it's December. Oh, and this one's got like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's really cool. Ooh, this one has glitter in it. Oh, fabulous. I love my shiny things. All right. And then, oh, and even the back has like elements you could cut out. That's pretty cool. So that is the pattern paper in the kit. And then we have also the decoupage sheets, which pop out and you make these little scenes on these little cards. So, I mean, that's really fun. I know Amy R from Prairie Paper and Ink actually did a video using all of these, making these little cards. So that's really cool. I probably won't do that because other people have, but I'll certainly play with them for my own entertainment. And then we have the Says Stamp Santa's Helper 6x8 stamp set, which have some beautiful images in them, and of course they are Christmas themed. However, well, I'll see what I make. We'll just have to wait and see. And then I have my cardstocks. So I have, let's see here, I have, I believe, Schoolhouse Red, AUDREY Blue, Simon's Black, and is it Nina or Simon's White? Nina, yeah, 110 of Nina Solar White. Oh, Lipstick Red, sorry, Lipstick Red, AUDREY Blue, Black, and Nina. So there you go, guys. We're going to jump right into card making. I'll see you again soon.
All right, so for the first cards, I really wanted to use those kind of pop out pieces. So I'm going to make all 5 of them. I'm only going to make one on screen, but I am going to make all 5 of them to show you. And I cut down some bases. These are going to be 4 by 8 inches when scored. Or sorry, that's what it is. And then scored, it is a 4x4 card. And you can see there, it fits perfectly for the little background there. I think it's like 3 and it's under, well, it's just under the 4-inch mark on both sides. So I went to the 4-inch mark because I wanted to give it a border. I thought it would look really pretty. So, I mean, I think that this was probably the easiest way. And now this is going to be sped up quite a bit because honestly, most of this is just me adhering foam tape to the back. And this is the Big Momma foam tape roll from Says Stamp. I love this roll. It's super easy to use, super great to use. So you saw there that I popped out the bottom layer, which is layer 1, and then I'm putting some foam tape on back of layer 2. And I did choose to use my big roll of foam tape just because I thought it would be a lot easier to use than the tiny 3D foam squares. I don't actually think that you would have enough foam squares to do the 5 little cards, to be honest. So I found this just easier for me to use. So this is late. I'm going to talk a little bit about that really quick here while we're adhering some things. This video I had intended to actually be up, and of course I have my supervisor there. This video I had intended it to be up like weeks and weeks ago. But sadly, at the beginning of January, my husband and I, we both got COVID. And we both got very sick. Well, I got very sick. He was sick, but not quite the same level of sick as I got. And I was pretty much, I pretty much didn't do very much at all for about 3 weeks. I'm only just now going back to work. So I missed about 3 weeks of life. So I'm 3 weeks behind. So my December video, sadly, it's the end of January now. So sadly, it's a lot later than I had hoped to have it up, but that is life. That is what we do. So, and I still really wanted to show off the kit. I think that the stuff in here is just adorable. I got really sick, and then now I am just a little bit behind. So I'm trying to kind of play catch up now that I'm starting to feel a bit better. So I do have the January kit. I've had it for weeks. I actually got it when I got sick. So I will hopefully have it up in the next week or two as soon as I kind of can get around to getting that video done and ready. But that's just kind of what's going on for me here. So sorry, this is a bit behind. I hope you guys are still interested. I know that these are Christmas cards, which is kind of odd now that we're going into February, but I still wanted to showcase the kit. So that's what we're doing today. So I am going to adhere that down to my little card base that I made there. And you can see that it has a pretty cool white border all around on each side. And I am going to round the corners later. I should have done that first, but I didn't think I wanted to. And this is the only corner chomper I have. It is the 123 punch board I use for envelopes. I don't have a corner chomper in my collection, so I use what I have. And if I had thought I wanted to do this, I should have done it before I adhered all of the panels on top of the cards. But of course, I didn't know I wanted to do it. So 3 of them are going to have rounded corners and 2 of them are going to have squared off corners because they were too thick near the area that I would have had to corner chomp. So they're just going to be square. And I don't think I don't think it matters. And then I brought in my Nuvo glitter drops in silver crystals, and that is just going to be kind of adhered randomly on the back, or kind of placed on the background there. On some of them I did it on the snowflakes like the one I just did, and then on this one I'm going to put it on a couple of the baubles that are hanging down from the back. Later I'm going to put all of the icicle distress that came in the kit in that bottle that came in the kit as well, and I'm going to use that on some cards, but I didn't realize I wanted to do that for these cards, so I just kind of really wanted to make these cards and kind of get these out of the way first because they're super, super cute, and I think that my best friend's kids would love these. So, and I don't think it's ever too early to start making Christmas cards, to be honest. I do a Christmas card series in July, which will probably be the next time I'll make Christmas cards after this, but otherwise I thought that these were a lot of fun and came together really easily. So there are those 5 cards, and of course all the bases are the same size. So for the second card, this one's kind of funny. I had this idea in my head that I really wanted to do a color block behind some characters. So I'm cutting down a piece of HammerMill cardstock here, and I just cut off about 1/8 of an inch all the way around to give it kind of a white border when I adhered it to the base. You can kind of see that there. And then I brought in a rectangle die from my stash, and I'm just using it to put a square on the cardstock, or I guess a rectangle, sorry. And that's kind of the border of where I want to bring in my Copic colors. Now, I chose to use my Copic markers. By no means would you need to do that. You could absolutely have ink blended this. However, then you would have to mask the little characters, and I was too lazy to mask them. And I wanted to see if I could do this kind of ombre-esque effect with my markers. So I'm going to attempt it. I like how it turned out, although I kind of think that oxides would have worked a lot better. But that's okay. I mean, we live and we learn, right? So I had to try the idea to kind of get it out of my head and move past it. So I'm going to stamp down my image. This is from the stamp set. It's a little snowman and the little elf. And I stamped it off to the left-hand bottom side of the square that I drew there, or that I traced in. And I have it coming outside of the area. So I'm going to bring in 2 grays. I have an N1 and an N3, and I'm just going to add shadowing where I think that anything would cast a shadow. So like the hat where the brim goes across the snowman's face, or like the nose underneath the carrot nose, or anything like that. Any area that has a shadow that would have been cast from, I have a tendency to do like a top central light, so that everything casts shadows to the bottom. There's no right or wrong way to do this. That's just a preference I end up doing. But again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And right here, it's going to look very gray, which is fair. I mean, they are gray markers. They're neutral grays. But once we add in the purple color, it will look vastly different. And now bear with me, this is going to look streaky, but it will blend out. And of course, again, this is sped way, way up. This is like 6 times faster than I actually was able to color this, but I didn't think you'd want to sit there. And I know that these videos, I always aim for them to be about a half an hour long, because I mean, there's 5 cards, and I try very hard to do very different cards in my videos. So there are 5 cards in this, so I kind of tried to have a bit of variation and try not to have this be too long. So I do not color this fast. But I brought in V12, V15, and V17, and that's what I'm going to use in the background to create kind of a purple ombre for my background. Now again, there's probably a better way to do this than the way I've done it. Well, I mean, oxides would be a better way to do this, but I really didn't want to mask the elves, and I really wanted to try my hand at this. So I laid a wash of my lightest color completely down on the whole background and tried to stay within the lines. I mean, I got out a little bit, but I don't think it really matters. And then I brought in my second color, which in this case is a V15. I do end up using 4 color blend for this. I'm going to bring in a BV17 at the end because I didn't feel it was dark enough at the edges, but I am going to kind of blend that out. And you can see that I'm kind of trying to leave a halo effect around the characters and kind of go out from there with my ombre. Now, you'll have to let me know if you think this worked or what you think of this kind of technique. I think it turned out pretty neat, although again, I think it would have been easier to achieve with my oxide inks. But I mean, we have to try things, right? That's how we learn. So, and you can see that I had to kind of go back and forth between my colors. That's why this is sped up so much, because I did really want to kind of get it to blend in. And it does look streaky, I know that, but I think we're going to help that a little bit when we go back through this last time right here where I've brought in the BV17. We're going to go back through all of the colors, and then I think that that does help some of the streak, but we're also going to add some splashes for like a snowy or a star look effect in the background. So if you're ever in doubt with something you've colored and you don't really like how it turned out, don't throw it away. Just add splashes of color. I always find that that kind of helps hide it in the least or kind of masks it a little bit. So anything can be salvaged. I fully believe that. And then I wanted to stamp out my sentiment. I've kind of only used the small Merry Christmas in the stamp set. I love little sentiments. I find that they always add a little bit extra to a card that's like other colors are going on. I don't want the sentiment to be the focal. I just want it to exist. So I am going to splash on some Picket Fence Distress acrylic paint, and I just splash that all over the background. So I mean, as stars or snow or whatever you want it to be, it doesn't really matter. But this kind of helps mask that bit of sketchy coloring a little bit. And then I did also bring in my white Jelly Roll pen just to add some kind of bigger stars and a few more stars or snowflakes wherever I really wanted them to kind of cover up some of the areas. And now sadly, I should have waited for this to dry longer. I did actually leave it for a good, I don't even know, about half an hour. I went and did something else while I was waiting for the paint to dry, and then I came back, but it wasn't fully dry when I come in and do a border, as I really wanted to add a border to it here in a sec. I even adhered it down. I did everything. I walked away from this, and yet it still was not fully dry. So that's on me. I'm going to smear the paint a little bit in the one side, but you can't really tell. Again, I mean, I'm of the belief that I'm not making perfect cards. I'm making cards that are full of love. That is kind of what I'm after. So I've never had anybody come back and say, hey, your card's hideous, or it's not straight, or it's, this has got a smear on it. Nobody's ever said that to me. And if they are, they wouldn't be getting a card from me, because I put a lot of time and effort into my cards. So, I wouldn't send it to someone who was going to say something like that about it. But I did bring in, this is a journaling pen. I don't think you can get these anymore. It just happens to be a nice black pen. A Copic multiliner would work, or any of the multiliners would work, because we're not going to color over it. So it doesn't need to be safe for anything. We're just adding a border. And I'm just adding a border to the colored areas of my image here. So I just went around all the sides with my T-square ruler, and then I added a little line at the end to kind of give that cross effect. And I mean, again, these aren't perfect. They're not perfectly around the color. I don't think it matters, to be honest with you. I like the border around it. I think that it really finishes off the color. And then I did bring in some Pink Fresh Studios. These are some crystals. They're out of the Essential Jewels set. I have the whole set. I love them. I think that they're a great set of jewels to have in your stash, because they have so many different colors in them. And that is the second card. I'm holding it up here so you can have a closer look at how it turned out. And I think it turned out really pretty. If you guys have a favorite card, I'd love to know which one it was. We have 3 more cards to go, and I did do a couple of pattern papered cards, which for me is always a bit of a struggle, to be honest. I never really know how to use pattern paper. I don't know why I struggle so much with it. I love to create backgrounds so much, so I have a tendency to make my own. So in this kit, I really pushed myself to make at least 2 pattern papered cards so that I could really work on those skills. So I brought in a stitched rectangle die, and I cut out this one pattern paper with it. This is going to be my background piece, and I cut it out with that stitched rectangle. And then I brought in 3 distressed oxide inks, because I really wanted to add a little bit of extra dimension to the panel. So I brought in Stormy Skies, Chipped Sapphire, and Black Soot, and I'm going to go through the 3 in that order and just add kind of a halo effect around the outside of the card, leaving the lightest color in the center, which is just the pattern paper. This really kind of makes you focus more on the pieces of pattern paper that I'm going to cut out here in a minute, but it also kind of gives you a sense of a little bit of drama, a little bit of extra going on with your pattern paper. So, I mean, I don't know, this might be slightly cheating, because I did bring in some inks to kind of liven up my pattern paper a little bit, but I think that it turned out really pretty, and I love the results. So I did work through those 3 colors until I was happy with the blend, and then I just used my dome foam there to kind of blend out the center so that it wasn't so harsh. And then I picked out a few items from the pattern paper. This was in the back page, so they're actually kind of a heavier weight cardstock. They're not quite pattern paper, so they stand up really well to being trimmed out and used as a focal. And I did end up using those little images on the two pattern paper cards that I used. I was trying really hard to focus on the paper and not on the stamps or anything else. So I kind of focused on the little elves, and in this case, the sign, which I think turned out really cute. And for fussy cutting, I just hold with my non-dominant hand and then cut with my dominant hand, but I try not to move the scissors too much. Again, this is sped up, so it looks like I'm moving them quite a bit, but I'm not actually moving that much. And then I wanted to create a snow hill for my little elf and my sign to be on so that they had a ground. So I just used a piece of paper. This is leftover from a different card. And I just cut out my little hill there. And then I lined it up on the bottom of my panel. And then I'm going to bring in my rectangle die again to add the same stitch effect to the little hill so that you would kind of get that finished effect. Now you could trim it out. I just really wanted it to look like it was a part of the scene. So I did line it up again with that panel that I'd already cut, and then ran it through my Gemini and cut it out so that the border had the same stitch effect on the little snowbank. And then I did also bring in the same oxide inks. I'm going to add a little bit of color. This is too stark white for my opinion, because it kind of stands out kind of against it. Like it's almost eye-catching, and I don't want it to be the focal. So I did bring in those same colors of Distress Oxide ink. I didn't re-ink my foams. I just still had them sitting there from when I had inked the background. So I just went right back through the same 3 colors on the outside edge of the little snowbank, and that kind of gave it enough that it pulled it back to not be the thing that you focus on immediately, which was kind of my hope there. And you see me, I struggle a little bit with my layout here. I play around with it quite a bit until I decide what I'm happy with. And then I'm going to use that same Merry Christmas stamp. I'm going to stamp it out on the little snow hill. I think that that was the best place for that sentiment, so that's where I ended up putting it. I think that that's the only sentiment I used in all of my cards, to be honest. I didn't use any of the other sentiments in the stamp set. You of course could. I just have a thing with small straight sentiments that I just like them, so I have a tendency to go back there, but you could, of course, use any sentiment you like. And I'm going to start adhering things down now. So I do adhere my sign straight down. And I did also fussy cut out a little bird off of a different image. I wanted to add it to the top of the sign. I just thought it was super cute. So I added him to the top of the sign and then used my acrylic block to weigh it down to make sure it actually adhered to the background. And then I am also going to adhere down my snowbank and line it up to the bottom of that card panel, as it would line up perfectly with the stitched edge. So I'd line that up and I adhere it down. And again, I usually use an acrylic block or my Misti to hold things down so that I'm happy with how they're sitting. And then for the little girl, I really wanted her to be propped up. I wanted some extra dimension. So I brought in those thin 3D foam squares that came in the kit and I put them all over the back of her. And then I'm going to adhere her down. It takes me a minute to kind of figure out my placement, but she's just off of the center point to the left-hand side, kind of standing on the snowbank. And this is where I had put all of that icicle, the Distress icicle in that little bottle. You can see it to the right-hand kind of middle of the screen there above my reverse tweezers. I've put the whole bottle in there. I don't know why. I actually already own one, so this was kind of an extra one. So I was like, well, it'd be kind of neat to have it just in that bottle. I will take some cling wrap and put it between the lid so that it doesn't dry out in that bottle, but I just thought that was kind of neat. So I did adhere my panel down straight to my my base, and then I'm going to go in and add a little bit of icicle detail. And this is honestly just adding some more character to the snowbank is kind of what I was thinking there. So I did a couple of lines across the snowbank to give the illusion that there was more dimension going on, and then I added it like kind of randomly to the background to give it kind of like a snow effect. And I made sure that where she was standing also had some, so it looked as if she was standing on something. And it'll be easier to see that here in a second when I hold it up. At this point, when I hold it up, it is completely dry, and you will see some of the crackle effect, which is really neat. This is the first time I've used the icicle one, so it was pretty cool to kind of play with. And here you can see here, I'm going to hold it up really close and you can kind of see that like crackling effect. And I just think that's super neat. So I am going to use this again on a later card, my second pattern paper card as well. So now we're going to jump into the 4th card. And I think in the end, this one's my favorite, which it's kind of the most like a technique I would normally do. So I'm not surprised, but I think this ended up being my favorite. And you can tell me what you think. So I did want to make a mini slimline card, so I cut out my base there, which I like mine to be 6x6 and then scored at the 3-inch mark. So it is a 6-inch by 3-inch card. That is my preferred mini slimline card. So that's what I cut my base out to be. And then I also brought in, this is a piece of HammerMill cardstock, and it's just being cut down. Oh no, this is Express It cardstock, sorry. This is Express It cardstock, and it's just being trimmed down to, I think originally I had it be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than my base. I'm going to cut it again later, but that's what it was there. And then I stamped out an image from the stamp set, the one that's all the baubles hanging down, or the ornaments, however you want to, I always call them baubles, but they're probably ornaments, hanging down from the background, or hanging down from the ceiling, or however that is. And then we're going to Copic color it. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through the Copic coloring, just because, I mean, you guys have seen me Copic color before. It's not, the first time you've ever seen it. So I used N3 and N5 for all the greenery. I laid a wash of N3 down first, and then I come in with the GO3 and GO5. I came in with a GO5 and just added flicks of color to the center of the ornaments, or sorry, the leaves. And now I've got my supervisor is back. She helps quite a bit. And then I brought in kind of an array of non-Christmas colors. I mean, this is very non-Christmas. I love non-Christmas colors. They kind of are my favorite way to do Christmas cards, but I do try to do a little bit of traditional colors sometimes. But then I brought BG01, BG45, and BG49 for my blues. And then for my violets, it's the same violets I used in the last card. It's a V12, V15, and V17. Those were kind of my violet colors there. Then we're going to go into the pinks, which I used RV14, RV25, and RV17. And again, if you're ever curious at what I'm using, everything is always linked and listed down below. And you can always ask me. If you ever have a question, please let me know. I am more than happy to answer. I respond to all the comments left on my videos. Like, if you ever want to ask me anything, reach out, like, communicate with me. I'd love to hear from you. And then I used kind of an orange color palette. So for that, I used YR12, YR16, and YR07. And then for the berries that are in with the greenery, I brought back in another purple, and this is a V09. And I just really wanted to kind of, it's actually a very dark purple, and I love how it looks with the berries and the green. Purple is I know I do a lot of pink cards, so I should almost say maybe pink's my favorite color, but purple is my favorite color, and I do have a tendency towards it. Purple seems to be disliked by a lot of people, which always surprises me a little bit, but I love purple, so I did choose to use purple in this card quite a bit. And then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the string, but I decided I really wanted to bring in a little bit of gold. So right here, I have a gold Posca marker. This is an acrylic paint marker, and I'm just coloring in the bow and the like string or ribbon or whatever is holding these ornaments up in this gold acrylic marker. I'm going to bring in some touches of other gold later, and they don't all match perfectly, but I don't really think it matters, to be honest. I've brought back in that Merry Christmas sentiment, and I'm going to stamp it down in some Golden Glitz ink by Delicata. I love this gold ink. It's my favorite. It's the only gold ink I own, actually, so I can't say that, but it is the only one I've ever wanted to own, so there's that. And I just stamped it down in the left-hand bottom corner. And then I really wanted to bring in some white highlights, so I brought in my Jelly Roll pen and just added highlights kind of wherever I felt they would look good. There's no rhyme or reason, and the quality control is back. There's no real rhyme or reason to where I put my highlights, honestly. It's just whatever I think will look the best. I don't really worry about a light source. I'm not worried about this being perfect or realistic necessarily. I just add them because I love how it looks. And it makes me happy, which is kind of the only thing that matters. And then I really wanted to have this kind of cutout edge. So I brought in my mini snips, and I'm just going to trim around the leaves at the top. Again, we're just fussy cutting. I don't find fussy cutting difficult. I know some people struggle, so maybe this wouldn't be something you'd enjoy doing, but I don't mind it. I find it pretty easy, and I always leave a white border around my fussy cutting. So it always kind of looks sticker-esque. And I love how that looks, so I always aim for that. Of course, you could cut right on the border. I don't. I like it. It also gives me some wiggle room if I can't cut straight, which, some days I'm better than others. And I just cut straight across the end there to kind of create that like effect where it was cut in and then across. So I did have to cut it twice there. And I do end up bringing in, this is some matte gold cardstock by Says Stamp, and I'm just cutting it down to fit behind the panel. So I think it ends up being like an 1/8 of an inch smaller, and I did cut down my background to be slightly smaller than that so that I could have that gold border all the way around and then a bigger border at the top. And then I brought in my Nuvo Deluxe glue once again, and I'm just going to adhere everything down to the base and the gold mat there. And shockingly, this is the only card I added a mat to. I was trying really hard to kind of do cards that were a little bit out of my comfort zone, a little bit different than what I normally would create, just to kind of challenge myself. And honestly, since I've been sick, I've been feeling very uncreative. So this whole kit was just kind of me trying to do something that would be different. So I mean, I don't know how the pattern paper cards turned out. I don't know if they're really that. They're not bad. They're cards, but they're not my best cards ever, so I would love to know what you guys think, how they came out. And then of course, to add a little more dimension as this card is completely flat, I did bring in my N1 Copic marker, and I'm just going to go around all of the parts of the image. Like literally I went around everything except the top of the leaves. I didn't color the area where I had fussy cut around the leaves. I think that has enough of its own texture going on, and I didn't want to take away from the white border that was already there. But otherwise I did go around each piece of the image, kind of creating, it's kind of like a shadow, although it's not quite, because there's no direct light source that would have created shadows like this. This is just because I like how it looks. And then I'm holding it up here so you can see what it looks comparatively on both sides. And then because I need all the sparkle in the world, I brought in my Spectrum Noir glitter pen, and I'm just adding glitter on top of all of the ornaments, making sure to stay away-ish from the white jelly roll pen detail, because the glitter pen will kind of try to eat it and remove it from your images. So I did kind of try to stay away from those, and then just added that glitter. And that is card 4, which I think in the end is my favorite, which is not surprising. And then we're going to jump into card 5, which is my second pattern paper card. And this one's kind of very simple. I tried to keep it simple. I tried to keep it just kind of cute, and that's kind of what I was hoping for in this last card. So I picked out 2 of the pattern papers, and I brought back in my stitched rectangle dies, and I cut them out so that I could layer them on top of each other. I kind of picked that pink, I don't know, it's like a buffalo check pattern. And then I also picked out the snowflake one that is quite glittery. Like you can't see it really there, but when I hold it up in the end, you'll see that pattern paper has all this beautiful glitter on it. And I did fussy cut out some images. I have the parcels there, and I have the little girl holding the candy cane dragging the what is that, like a sled of gifts. And then I also chose to cut out the little elf boy hanging from the Northern Pole sign. I didn't know I was going to use him right away, so it took me a minute, but I did end up choosing to use him in the image as well. And this just made me think of like, maybe this is her crush, or maybe this is her family member, I'm not sure, but he's off goofing around on Christmas, and she just wanted to bring him something bring a gift, or bring him a candy cane, right? So I don't know, I thought it just was really cute. So I'm going to adhere everything down with the same Nuvo Deluxe glue. It is my preferred liquid glue, that and Barely Art glue. They're both really good. And I did put them on kind of an angle just to add some visual interest in the background. Again, pattern paper cards are not my forte, so I kind of have to really ponder things. And I am adhering this directly down onto a card base. I didn't do another panel underneath, so everything is being adhered directly to the card base. But I always use a very heavyweight cardstock, so for me that never seems to be an issue. And then I am going to adhere him down as well, straight to the background. So for the little girl and the sleigh, I do use the 3D foam squares that came in the kit to give her some dimension, again, because it's a very plain card, a very simple card, but I think that just that little bit of added dimension gives it a little something extra, which I think is kind of cool. And then I adhere her I tried to make her straight. I'm not sure she's honestly straight, but I tried to make her straight because the pattern paper kind of throws me off. And then I did bring in that same Icicle Distress glaze, and I'm just kind of adhering it, or I'm like putting it on random areas of the background. I did kind of do like snow in the back, and then I kind of I did the pom-pom on her hat and on his hat, and then a little bit on the top of the Northern Pole sign. And I did it underneath the sled as well, just to kind of create like marks where it looked like maybe she was dragging her sleigh through some snow. And I just thought that was kind of a cool touch. This stuff is pretty neat, actually. I need to use it in like a different project where you can kind of see it better. But for here, I think that it kind of just used, so it kind of turned out like Nuvo drops or something. Like it was just kind of used that way. So I thought that was pretty neat. So I'm going to hold it upstairs so you can check this out. And thank you so much, guys, for looking at all my cards. If you had a favorite, I would love to know which one it was. And if you have any, advice for me on pattern paper cards, or you want to tell me what you think of the pattern paper cards, that'd be great. I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and then sometimes in between just for entertainment value. Thank you so much, guys. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.